I am your host, Doug Blackshear, broadcasting to you live from the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. We are on location today across from the Oakland Coliseum with this iconic Oakland building sharing our background today. Today, we welcome back Allyssa Victory Esquire, an ADEM member returning for her bi-weekly 30-minute segment, Allyssa Victory's Corner. We can't wait. Oh my goodness, the sister is sharp. Next up is Ray Bobbitt of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, AASEG, to update us on the happening of his organization. I want to comment on last week's show and guest Tina Brown, as that was a powerful show, We spoke with a loving sister sharing the story of her sister, Justice for Pushan Brown. The passion was amazing. You felt her pain, from which she spoke, touched my heart. Audience, it touched my heart and the hearts of many for sure. Instagram at Justice for Pushan Brown, and the four is FOR. Hashtag Justice for, and that's FOR, for Pushan Brown, and a GoFundMe as well. Email Justice for FOR Pushan Brown at gmail.com. Share the story of Pushan's daughter. I want to welcome back this week my favorite clinician that keeps my mind, and that takes a lot, audience, that keeps my mind right, and is our mental health consultant. I saved that introduction, of course, for my co-host, Dr. Ashley, Doctor of Psychology, with us each week as she broadcasts from Southern California, helping us all with our mental health needs. So let's get started. I am so excited to be here today. Instagram at Victory for, and that's FOR, hashtag Victory for, and that's FOR Oakland, at AASEG Oakland, hashtag AASEG Oakland. Our genuine thank you, Mr. Donnie Glover, for this opportunity to allow us, as always, for the honor of Black Business Roundtable, being a part of your growing network dedicated to bringing the real unfiltered news before the news, hashtag BlackUSANews.news, hashtag Donnie Glover. Today, March 2nd, 2023, as noted via the National Day Calendar. Their website is nationaldaycalendar.com. Today is World Teen Mental Wellness Day. Hashtag World Teen Mental Wellness Day aims to normalize conversation and dismantle stigmas around teen mental health issues. Dr. Ashley will further highlight this later in the show. Thank you, National Day Calendar. Once again, the website is National Day Calendar. For some current events in the news today, the current African American Mayor Lori Lightfoot of the nation's third largest city, Chicago, has lost her bid for re-election. Well, there should be a lesson to new mayors that you hold your promise to the people or we will replace you. You hold your promise to the people and those who supported you or you will be replaced. Instead, Brandon Johnson, African American, and Paul Vallis, former Chicago Public School CEO, will head to a runoff as neither received 50% of the vote. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs up goes to dun, 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 the Black Joy Parade 2023 on February 26th. And although the weather was not the best, Oakland still turned out to celebrate with their positive attitudes and community spirit. Way to go, Oakland. Way to go, Oakland. Also, hashtag Justice for Enzo and hashtag Chris Kelly Foundation for, and that's FOR, staying on top of dog tasing by police in Lodi, California. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs down goes to dun 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 dun. I love that. Who made the Black Business Roundtable Naughty List 2023 this week? The Lodi City Council at their City Council meeting tonight, and for those there for justice, for, and that's FOR, hashtag for, hashtag justice for, and that's FOR, Enzo. The dog tased by Lodi, California police, dragged by the neck, and then died. That experience rude and hateful comments from a few individuals that were definitely there to taunt the owner of Enzo. And once again, taunt the owners of Enzo after a police and other animal control person killed their animal. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Dragged by the neck, that experienced rude and hateful comments from a few individuals that were definitely there to taunt the owners of Enzo and those there to listen in support of Enzo. Yet, they did not remove or block those comments, but did seem to sway towards moving comments by those that were defending Enzo's owner. Unbelievable, Lodi. And we're going to stay on top of this audience. And this is going on in Lodi, California, just outside of Stockton. Unbelievable. There was one cool head among those that commented. Some of these comments are meant to deter and distract from, and once again, detour and distract, but maintain your focus on Enzo and Enzo's family. That was horrific. Horrific. As those of us that love our pets, those of us who love our pets and other pets and animals, would never intentionally, by our own words, as seen here, truly would want to harm another's heart, and especially wound Enzo's family and owners further with their loss still fresh in their hearts and minds. Unbelievable. What is going on in Lodi, California? Hashtag Lodi PD, hashtag Lodi, California, hashtag Lodi City Council, hashtag boycott. Yes, we are going to boycott Lodi, California, and that's hashtag boycott Lodi CA, including hashtag Lodi wine, hashtag Lodi wines, hashtag Lodi Wine Festival, April 2023. So Lodi, you better get your act together. because we're coming for you and we're going to make sure that this family gets justice for the animal that was dragged in the street and then killed by Lodi police and animal control in Lodi, California. Don't receive the thumbs down in hashtag the town. Do better. You are welcome to come and talk with us about it and make it right. Make it right. Hashtag BBRT Naughty List. Hashtag BBRT Naughty List 2023. Today, show highlights. Show highlights. And I get excited when I see Allyssa because we know she's going to give us the real deal on politics in the city of Oakland, Alameda County, state of California, and nationally. Today, Allyssa Victory Esquire on Victory's Corner, she discusses local Black women in history and the Oakland Worker Tour that she took part in last week. Oh, I bet you she had an awesome time with those beautiful sisters or out there campaigning and working to better our community. Mr. Ray Bobbitt, President, CEO of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, will update us on the impact and change the AASEG, African American Sports and Entertainment Group project can have on Oakland. So let's get started with my co-host joining shortly, Dr. Ashley Coleman, as we give you the scoop from Oakland right here on the Black Business Roundtable, March 2nd, 2023, right across the street from the Oakland Coliseum that we are sure is going to be the home of the first African-American owned WNBA, Women's National Basketball Association, and first Black-owned NFL. Congratulations, Ray Bobbitt. We can't wait to see you today. My show guests today include Therapeutic Thursday check-in with with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, tenured and immediate past department chair, assistant professor of psychology at University of the West. Allyssa Victory Esquire is a civil rights leader, educator, a licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and the state of California. Visit her website at victory4, and that's FOR, Oakland.wordpress.com. On Instagram at victory4, and that's FOR, Oakland, hashtag victory4Oakland, and that's FOR for Oakland. And our next guest, Ray Bobbitt, my brother, my friend, and I went out there and had to throw some dukes up to protect him too in a political situation and otherwise. Because this brother, we're going to make sure he gets that NFL owned team and the WNBA here in Oakland, California. Ray Bobbitt, founder of the African American Sports Sports and Entertainment Group, AASEG. His website is aasegoakland.com. Instagram at AASEG Oakland, hashtag AASEG Oakland. Phone number 510-473-2722. Email him at contact@aasegoakland.com. And now for the national political highlight. Well, what is going on with the immediate Vice President Pence? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why can't he confirm or deny confirm or deny. He sits there like a little puppet, and if he runs for president, I'm sure that's going to be a problem. He cannot confirm or deny his honest opinion on his previous boss, ex president, and hopefully soon to be serving federal time, Donald Trump. If he wins the GOP nomination, can you say scared? Can you say scared? Pence, stop being scared. Tell the truth as it will set you free. Isn't that the phrase? And now for my mental therapy of the day, for the sister who keeps me grounded, for the woman, the Black woman who has helped the Black Business Roundtable maintain the #1 seat on BlackUSA.News with Mr. Donnie Glover, my sister, my friend, my colleague, and sometimes my mental therapist, Dr. Ashley Coleman. What's up, Doc?
Hey, Doug. How you doing? Good to see you.
Oh, girl, wait a minute, wait a minute. You notice something different?
I like the background.
Let me tell you something. A friend of mine has been telling me to step my game up, and now we are. We are going to make sure that we stay on top of our game and visually as well.
Sounds
No,
good. Love the tie too, by the way.
oh, wait a minute. This tie is from a Black owned company called Nate for Men, and
Mm,
she will be a guest on next week.
nice.
She has a woman's clothing store. Let me think of the name of it.
Okay.
I will get back to you on the name, but Nate's for Men has outstanding apparel, and it is African American owned and operated by a Black woman.
Mhm.
Also, it's right down in the city civic center bill
Oh.
area. So, audience, make sure you go down there and tell her how fly my tie was.
I like that print.
Okay, for our check-in, our weekly check-in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take us away.
Thank you, Doug. Greetings, audience. Welcome to Therapeutic Thursdays. Before I dive into what we're going to talk about, I first want to bring the news of the day, courtesy of the Equal Justice Initiative. So, on this day, March 2nd, 1948, white residents waged terror campaign to intimidate Black voters in Georgia. Again, stop me if you've heard this before. As per usual, you can access this daily calendar of historical events by visiting the website calendar.eji.org. Um, and so when you visit the webpage, there's a newspaper clipping of a sign that says, "No Negroes cast vote at Wrightsville, Georgia polling station." So again, on this day, March 2nd, 1948, on the eve of a primary election in Wrightsville, Johnson County, Georgia, at least 300 white men and women belonging to the Ku Klux Klan held a parade in the town center. The gathering featured speeches inciting racial hatred and violence, and participants burned crosses on the lawn of the county courthouse. And the event was organized to threaten and intimidate the county's 400 registered Black voters into not voting in the primary the following day. And the terror tactics worked. Fearing for their safety and knowing that they had no expectation of protection from law enforcement, not a single Black citizen of Wrightsville cast a vote in the primary. White voters and politicians in the US, and particularly in the South, have actively sought to suppress Black voter turnout and political representation since the establishment of Black voting rights. Following emancipation, many states instituted laws and requirements such as poll tax, felony disenfranchisement policies, and literary tests to infringe on Black Americans' right to participate in the political process. And in addition to these legislative methods, white residents, emboldened by the support of corrupt law enforcement, used violent threats, intimidation, and racial terror lynching to terrorize and sometimes kill Black voters. And again, unchecked racialized violence and disenfranchisement of Black voters kept America's racial hierarchy intact for generations after the abolition of American chattel slavery. And I'll just add this too: in 1940, 77% of Black Americans still lived in the South, where they made up 24% of the population, but only 3.5% of registered voters. And this is why I know later on we're going to have Victory's Corner. It's so important. The efforts that friend of the show, Allyssa Victory, and others have been doing, not just to campaign, but to go door to door to inform Oakland and Bay Area residents of their rights to vote, and actually to get them signed up to vote, to inform that even if they have a felony that they can vote. And so it's just, again, a long-standing effort to try to get equal representation.
Dr. Ashley, no one tells a story like you do. Keep up the great work, my sister. It is so good to share this platform with you as we not only inform Oakland, California, Alameda County, state of California, but nationally here. And I want to say that the East Coast has been giving us great reviews on breaking down how the same things that are going on with Black people here in Oakland, being deceived by these politicians who get our votes and don't call you back, who have definitely demonstrated incapable or incompetent of running cities, governors, assembly people, council people. You will be named on this show. So keep up the bad work and make our Black Business Roundtable discuss you nationally here. Dr. Ashley, as you can see, I need your I need your daily words of the day. Yeah, where my ball at here? Well, you know, we are down here on location at the Coliseum, and we will be airing down here. We have our new look. We are making sure we step up our game and inform people who have been misled, mistreated, and have not been getting calls back from elected officials. Weekly check-in, our mental weekly check-in with back up, Doug, with our audience, with our very own, this beautiful Black Nubian queen, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take us away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And now I'm back for Therapeutic Thursday. Today is going to be, I'll have some special reflections, as today is World Teen Mental Wellness or Mental Health Day. And it began being honored and celebrated in 2020. The purpose of the day is to really bring awareness to the mental health needs of our preteens as well as our teenagers. And so I thought I would talk to our audience. If you have a preteen or a teenager that you love, I want to share some statistics. Bear with me. Some of them may be startling, and also share some recommendations for how you can advocate for your child, for your niece and nephew, and get them access to resources. And so the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, is the country's largest grassroots organization for mental health. And and I really appreciate NAMI, their chapters throughout this country. And I really want to recommend people to visit the website, NAMI.org, where you can find information about statistics, warning signs, and actually receive education that is digestible in lay terms, no psychobabble, and is also written from a strength-based perspective. In addition to offering information, NAMI chapters throughout the country also offer information groups and family support groups if you or your loved one is coping with a mental illness. But according to NAMI, suicide is the second leading cause of death for individuals ages 10 to 14. And it's the third leading cause of death for individuals 15 to 24. It's second to unintentional injury for individuals ages 10 to 14. And for individuals 15 to 24, we have unintentional injury and childhood cancer. But again, so suicide is in the top 3 leading causes of death for individuals between the ages of 10 to 24. And we're seeing an exponential increase in suicide attempts and suicide completions. So I want to give some information about some language. You might see someone or read someone say suicidal ideation. That means someone is having thoughts of wanting to intentionally end their life. Then we talk about suicidal attempts. These are efforts to end someone's life that were incomplete, and that can be on a range. And then you may see suicide completions, and that means that someone intended to end their life, and that was the end. They completed that act that led to the ending of their life. So we suicidal ideation, suicidal attempt, suicide completions. So what we're seeing specifically with Black teenagers is an increase in suicidal ideation, attempts, and completions. Historically, African Americans, in comparison to their counterparts across other races, were the lowest percentage of individuals that were reporting suicidal thoughts or reporting a history of attempts. But what we're seeing now is that for Black female teens, the attempts and ideation are increasing. But for Black male teens, actually what we're seeing is that injury from attempts are increasing. And I just want to give a little bit more to this. And I just want to acknowledge that I am speaking in terms using binary gender. That's not to be exclusionary, but that's how our research right now has the data disaggregated. So I want to acknowledge that. But historically, what we see is that while women or females tend to attempt suicide more, our current thinking is that males, when they attempt suicide, because they tend to use more lethal means, complete more at a higher rate. So some of the concerns we have for us that are with, love preteens, love teenagers, we're trying to figure out what exactly is leading to this increase in numbers. And I want to let you know that these numbers were trending upward even before COVID. And so they've started to now exponentially spike. But what we're actually thinking about is a unique factor is social media. You've heard me talk about bullying before. With social media, instead of 3 o'clock high for some of our seasoned audience members, that after school between the hours of 3 to 6 p.m., there have been a lot of programs developed, and that was the risk time period for most kids that, again, parents were working. So keeping children busy was thought to believe to be preventative, and in many cases it was. And then children had breaks from Friday to Monday where they could get some reprieve from classmates that they didn't get along with or potential bullies. Social media is 24/7, 365, and things are shared broadly. Unfortunately, there was just a young woman that completed suicide after she was jumped at her school, and that footage was widely circulated. So we're starting now with the compounds of COVID, social isolation, in addition to the impact of social media, not just in bullying, but also in projecting things about beauty and wealth. And we know that everything that someone posts is not true. What we do know about individuals up to the age of 24 is that their frontal lobe is not fully defined. And so what that means is that when our frontal lobe is not fully defined, we're unable to understand the permanence of our decision making. So we call that object permanence. So we're not able, so a lot of youth take risks because they don't understand how permanent something is. And we still believe that suicide attempts are a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So I want to share again some questions that you can use and some things to consider. So we talked about the warning signs, mood changes, sleep changes, appetite changes, no longer wanting to do hobbies or sports that they're into, no longer caring about pets or clothing or grooming, not wanting to spend time with friends, not wanting to go to school. These are important signs, not talking about the future, not talking about wanting to go to college, not talking about wanting to grow up. These are things that are warning signs, particularly for adolescents. In addition to that, adolescents have not only heard a lot about death, possibly seen it streamed when we talk about racial violence, but also community violence, losing people close to them. It's now very common for someone to have lost a classmate, to know someone that's been killed by gun violence. And so we're looking at, with increased risk for trauma and PTSD, there's usually an increased vulnerability to suicidal ideation. So let me jump into some of the recommendations. Number one is start the conversation. Largely in the Black and Brown communities, we believe that if we talk to our children about their thoughts, potentially of being down or depressed, that we may suggest it. That's not the case. We want to ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions allow for someone to elaborate versus a closed-ended question that is just a yes or no or okay or fine. So instead of saying, did you have a good day at school today? Yes, no, fine. Asking questions such as, what was the best part of your day? What did you not like about your day? Who did you eat lunch with? Who do you get along with or not get along with at school? And I know Doug and I have talked a lot about the importance of presence in school, but we're also just cultivating conversations so that your child knows that they can come to you with anything. So, parents, if you start the conversation, you have to be prepared for the responses. If you shame your child, they're going to shut down and they're not going to want to talk to you. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be consequences when they tell you the truth, but you want to think about listening and allowing your child to really tell you how they're feeling so that you can support them. If you shame your child, while you may be teaching them to be obedient to you, that is not helping them develop adequate problem solving skills. Also, check your child's social media account. They have one. If they don't have one, their best friend has one, or their cousin has one, or they may be tagged in pictures, and they can explain it better to you the same way a toddler can work a smartphone better than a millennial or older. What Even if you have a rule about social media, what children, again, don't understand, or teenagers, is the permanence of social media. And we know this because we have adults that still struggle with this as we're all adapting to having a digital imprint. So again, asking conversations about how your child is feeling and not shaming them if they're vulnerable and tell you that they're sad, how you model emotions. If you judge yourself for feeling weak, they may judge themselves for feeling that way. So again, have conversations. If you see any changes in behavior, ask questions and let them know that you can get them help. As usual, there are many mental health clinicians that work specifically with children and adolescents. If you're interested in that, you can visit the website therapyforblackgirls.com or therapyforblackmen.org. You can also dial 988 in cases of psychological emergency, or take your child to the nearest emergency room if they're in crisis. But there is help, and therapy can really be effective.
Audience, just like you'd have a broken leg, it's like you'd have a cavity that affect your thinking and your visual.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a splinter in your brain, if you are suffering from anxiety, depression,
Mm-hmm.
suicidal thoughts, please take Dr. Ashley's advice and reach out to a doctor of psychology. To that end, we want to immediately get into our special sister. And audience, I surround myself with the most beautiful Black Nubian queen with I mean, you know what? If heaven is anything like I'm living on earth, I can't wait to get there. To that end, Dr. Ashley, audience, let's welcome back friend of the show. And for other segments of Victory's Corner, Allyssa Victory Esquire, standing for social justice. As always, we are happy to have her
Mhm.
on our new segment, Victory's Corner, with us. Dr. Ashley, please read this outstanding fighter for the people. Ran for mayor
Absolutely.
with $30,000, and
Mhm.
her opponent had 300,000 plus, and she still did well. Out there on the
Mhm.
ground, getting people signed up to
Mhm.
vote. The
Mhm.
sisters got me thinking that, hey, if our young doing half as what she's doing, we have a good future ahead of us. Doctor, can you read her bio, Dr. Ashley, please?
Yes, I can. So, Allyssa Victory Esquire is a civil rights leader, educator, and licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and state of California. She holds a BA with honors in ethnic studies and minor in Black studies, as well as a JD concentrated in government law. Allyssa currently practices in policing and labor law and is an elected ADEM 18 delegate to the California Democratic Party for Assembly District 18. And she recently won another term along with her entire slate for ADEM 18. Allyssa, we're so happy to have you back as always.
Happy to be back. Happy Thursday. Happy March. Year's going
Yes.
by a little bit fast, but happy
Indeed.
Women's History Month.
Yes.
Transitioning us over from Black Futures Month. So very excited just to be here with you all to help me end my week on a great note with the Black Business Roundtable.
Well, let's dive right into it. And before I ask my first question, I want to start off by saying Oakland is under siege right now. We have
Mhm.
17 murders. 17.
Mhm.
As we introduced you, I believe something about police came up. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on from your perspective? Because
Mhm.
it is it is wide open and smoke, gun smoke out here in Oakland, California. What's going on?
I mean, I could say this is an unusual situation, but it actually has become the norm for Oakland. We have multiple crises, and public safety has been one consistently for at least the last several decades, right? We're in 20
Mhm.
years of our settlement agreement around police reforms. We've gone through over 10 chiefs of police in the last 8 years. We just fired our current chief of police and do not have a chief. We have an interim, and we'll have to go through the formal selection process to even have a department head. But aside from our policing, we also have lost our chief of Department of Violence Prevention. We no longer have a homeless administrator. So there are a lot of staff who are running these services and response systems that are missing in action. We're not
Mhm.
sure if they're going to come back, who's going to replace them, and what the plan is to do something different. So our city is in crisis. I absolutely agree. I agree we're under siege from politicians. We're under siege from people who want to roll us back to tough on crime policies that will fall hardest on Black people that look like us, that are not proven to make us safer. There are small businesses. There are people in Deep East and poor and working class folks that still don't have adequate 911 response, emergency services that don't have any types of crime prevention and don't feel like they should even call the cops because they don't believe they'll get any response or service. So there's a lot of crises happening. And I'm not the mayor right now, but I definitely ran on addressing some of these deep rooted, long standing issues. But I am a criminal justice expert and policing attorney. And I've continued to offer my education, my advice, my insights, as well as the nonprofit that I work for to our electeds, to our police commission. And I am excited to say that last night, the Alameda County Democratic Party unanimously approved our resolution in support of an independent civilian sheriff oversight body and inspector general to deal with our sheriff policing, which is at the county level, separate, but also works in partnership with our city police departments and local agencies. So I agree with you. I don't have a clear, easy answer. It never has been in Oakland, but it's also been an ongoing crisis that continues with every cycle of crisis of leadership that doesn't move us closer to resolution, but actually continues the same status quo.
Well, that was a mouthful.
Yes, it was.
Coming from a attorney who has a demonstrated history of making a difference in the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda politically. Thank you, Allyssa Victory, and Victory's Corner.
Yes.
Starting with the local Black women in history,
Yeah.
whom are you going to share? Whom are you going to share with our audience today? And why did you choose the woman you decided to discuss today? Thank you.
Well, I didn't just choose one. So y'all gonna have to bear with me. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. First, I have to back myself. I am a Black woman who recently made history, running to become the first Black woman mayor, was kicked off the ballot illegally, and fought my way back and made history with our outstanding numbers. As Doug mentioned, the only people to get more votes than me had to out fundraise me at least 10-1, had independent expenditures, and I had exactly 0. And so I've already made Black women's history, Black young leaders history in the city. But there's so many other Black women in my city that are making history, that have made history. I will always highlight our newest elected district attorney, Pamela Price. She is only 2 months into the job and has already made so much headway in coming to speak at public forums, educating people on what she's doing, what her job is, having public input, public advisory groups. She just released an interim directive around sentencing enhancements. I won't get too much into it, but a majority of enhancements, especially gang enhancements, like 90%, fall on Black and brown people. It extends our incarceration and makes sure that we are locked up. And our state has a mandate to reduce mass incarceration, to have more equity in who we're charging, how we're charging, and how we are administering criminal justice. And so that was just released in several news articles today and will go into effect on Monday, while she continues to accept public comments around her proposed policy changes. And it's really exciting just to have a DA that is more transparent, is more accountable, and is quickly trying to deliver on her campaign promises. I'll pause there as I see you got some comments to jump in on DA Price.
Before you get into your question, Dr. Ashley, I'd like to say this in regards to Madam Pamela Price. When I call her, she answers the phone. When I have an issue, she addresses it. So kudos to Madam DA Pamela Price, and I will continue to support her to the fullest. Congratulations, Pamela Price, for taking care of the Alameda County broken system. In addition to that, I have one thing to ask you. Are you ready? You know, I like to fire
There's
it off.
another question because I still have some more Black women to talk about.
Oh, okay, real quick. Did you make it to the Oscar Grant Foundation and Gala event?
I did not personally, but I attend their annual, on January 1st, their memorial at Fruitvale BART Station that now has Oscar Grant Way, the street right there where all of our buses and drop-offs are. I did not make it personally, but it is an important event. The foundation does so much healing work, so much violence prevention work, so much criminal justice work, especially for families who've been victimized by police violence and brutality. I don't know if you had a follow up, but
no, go ahead, Allyssa. Jump back in.
Has been proximate with so many families. Again, she made history becoming the first Black woman district attorney ever elected in Alameda County. There are only 3 Black women DAs in the whole state of California, 58 counties. Only 3 of them are headed by Black women. So that is a history-making moment, and she'll continue to make history as she delivers on her promises. I also just want to highlight 2 other Black women with strong connections to Oakland. One is Barbara Lee. I hope y'all know her. Hope you've heard of her because she's been our congresswoman for the last 20 plus years in the city of Oakland. She's had experience in the assembly. She's had experience with local government. She's had experience with policy. She's even organized as a Black student union leader here at Mills College in the city of Oakland. And she is now running for United States Senate. She chose the great city of Oakland and our Laney Community College campus to launch her campaign announcement this past Saturday. I'm excited for the race. We'll be watching. We'll be encouraging people to register to vote and educating them on what's at stake. The primary is next March 2024. One other Black woman that I have to mention is Latifah Simon. If you don't know her, she is an awesome intellectual, leader, mentor, policy change maker, and she also is currently our BART board director. She lives in Oakland. She represents our public transit system. She represents riders who depend on public transit. I caught the bus today. So I am one of those people who rely on those publicly funded transit systems. But she just announced this past weekend that she will be running for Barbara Lee's Congress seat to now become the congressional representative, taking over for a Black woman. These are two Black women with long track records, long, clear values around progress, around racial justice, economic justice, families and working class folks. And I just want you all to make sure that you keep those two names in mind of women that are going to be coming up on your ballots to represent Oakland and beyond. People who have roots in leadership in Oakland. There's so many powerful Black women that are ready to lead coming from my city. So I want to make sure you all know about those two who've just launched their campaigns and start following them. Again, Black women are at a disadvantage in terms of fundraising, endorsements, and people believing that we are competent and truly know what we are doing. And we are experts in our own experience. And these women, especially Barbara Lee, have years of expertise in government and in public service. So I'm excited to see what next year holds for us as these campaigns are already starting now. Did you want to jump back in, Doug? Did you have a follow-up on that?
No, it's time for me, Doug. I think you're on mute, but I know it's time for me to answer a question. But I definitely am excited too. It sounds like go time, and you really highlighted some titans there. So, Allyssa, can you tell us about the Oakland Worker Tour that you recently participated in?
Yes. So I received a very special invitation from our Fair Labor Oakland Coalition, which is made up of several of our unions, as well as our economic justice nonprofits and folks that are their allies. I attended this worker tour with several folks from across these organizations, but also with our Department of Workplace and Employment Standards staff. This is one of the newest departments in the city of Oakland. I worked years ago with the Lift Up Oakland Labor Coalition to get this department started, to get it funded, to get our director hired. So I was very excited to see that, hey, there's actually a department, there's actually a director now, and that they're on this tour. They want to see what it's actually like being a worker in our city. And it was very eye-opening for me. We went to multiple sites all throughout East Oakland and a little bit in downtown, but mostly East Oakland. We visited day laborers, which are workers who often are migrants, who may be transitional. A lot of them are unhoused and are maybe newcomers. Many of them are unlicensed but have professional skills, can do things like construction, can help you transport items. You know, there's people who will hire you to haul items or to take things to the trash. And so just looking at different types of work, different types of labor, but also the conditions that they're in, right? Day laborers are notorious for standing on the street, standing outside of stores, and no matter weather. Most of them don't eat, again, lack housing and basic support services, and are waiting all day for work. These are people working. Work looks different for all of us, and it's important to respect the different types of labor that is happening in our city because it all is needed and essential and is happening, whether the government understands it and protects it or not. And so this Department of Workplace and Employment Standards is tasked with enforcing all of our local workers' rights laws, minimum wage, unionizing rights, rights to be free from sexual violence or harassment in the workplace. We have specific laws that are passed just for the city of Oakland that are different from the rights we may have under state or federal labor laws. So having our own local agency to enforce those is so important to make sure that we're actually enforcing workers' rights. And I believe I've said it before, but the most widespread theft at any time in our state is wage theft, right? That connects to our public safety, our housing, right? Economic justice and people's ability to work and provide for themselves is key to a lot of other issues that we see in our city. So there's worker tour. We again visited people who work on the streets, people who vend. We visited hotel workers by the Coliseum. So I'm so excited you're having Ray Bobbitt talk about the Coliseum proposals, because there are a lot of businesses in terms of hotels and smaller restaurants and industry that are by the airport right now, and a lot of them are still struggling. They're struggling to see their workers' rights implemented and enforced. They're struggling to have a voice and for people to be focused on them, since they're a bit removed and far from City Hall and where most of our electeds are. We also visited nonprofits that run workers' rights measures that help fund these agencies that do workers' rights trainings. We visited Centro Legal de la Raza, which is in Fruitville. They help do a lot of wage claims to help people calculate, here's what the minimum wage is, here's what you're owed, let's help you get through this process. And so meeting with all these different stakeholders who all want to protect our workforce and strengthen labor and labor relations in our city was, again, very eye-opening experience. Was great to see that this is one of the first things our director is doing, and she's only been here for like 3 months, right? So she's still new. She only has like 2 staff who work under her, and she was very clear that we need to staff this department. We need to resource this department. How can you serve and enforce the law for hundreds of thousands of workers if you yourself don't have employees and the resources to do it? So those will be asked. I'll support in our upcoming budget cycle. But the most important takeaways for me was to see the everyday conditions of our workers, that people are struggling to get to work. People are struggling to feel safe at work. People are struggling to eat and like have their basic needs met while they're trying to work to pay bills or to provide for someone else other than themselves. So it was, very humbling, again, to see the conditions that people are working through, to see people working multiple jobs, to see young people, to see immigrant workers who barely speak English, who are still working and being productive in our city and who want some help. Many of these workers said this is the first time they've ever seen a city employee, any person in City Hall, on these streets, coming to visit them, to talk with them, and to listen to them. That they, are expected to come to City Hall to lobby and talk to our mayor or our council or people who work in these departments. But it was already a shift that the workers told me, that they saw the city staff coming out to visit them where they work. So it was a great tour. I hope that the tour is replicated and run on a regular basis. I would like to see other electeds, especially our mayor, attend this tour and have to see and travel these streets, go to work the way that our workers do, right? It's very different than working at City Hall, or even like me, I work as an attorney in San Francisco. And again, being able to be proximate, showing up, listening to people is half the work to really understand what is happening, where the problems lie, and how our electeds and people responsible can do better. But it was excellent. I encourage you all to follow Fair Labor Oakland. And again, be on the lookout for some workers' rights initiatives and for some asks for us to increase our resources, our funding and staffing to our workers' rights department in our city to serve the entire city, right? Everybody is a worker, employer, going to. We need to know what our rights are because the law is constantly changing, and having a department that is fully ready to do that is going to be so important to us moving forward.
Well, it sounds like you are ready to be a mayor.
I already was, right?
It sounds like you have a plan, and you folded it out outstanding here today. I was not able to make the Black Joy Parade because I was working, but were you able to attend this year? And tell us a little about that, because I heard it was great.
Absolutely. The Black Joy Parade is in its 6th year. And I think Oakland is the perfect place to host something like this. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a parade for Black people being joyful and happy. It's a festival for Black people, Black business, Black artists to showcase their joy and to bring that to others. It's a free festival that happens in the middle of our downtown. It's intergenerational. You'll see babies, you'll see our youth who are out there dancing and performing. You'll also see our elders, right? They had George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, right? So we had older generations that were excited, and some of us newer people were like, "Who's that?" I said, "Y'all better put some respect on artists." And so it was an all-day event that started around 12 with the parade that went into a festival. Since the festival is right in downtown, any businesses that are walkable, that are right next door, that are even close to transit, will have special events, will have their own artists. So I did attend for pretty much the whole day. I watched the different performers. There were vendors out. We had our Black Cultural Zone, which is based in East Oakland, that comes and does satellite Black Cultural Zone activities, including their roller skate rink. So roller skating was in downtown for that 7-hour period. They had Little Joy, which was like a small segment for our babies, just play areas, fun and games, right? Raffles, rides for them. So it's a way that we showcase Oakland's Blackness, Oakland's Black history, our Black presence, and our Black future. And I think having it not be around necessarily issues or like some of our hardships, but just around joy. Just something so simple, but it is so radical. It's so revolutionary. It is so unexpected, right? In a city where so many Black people are suffering, where Black people, again, are at the highest levels of folks who are being unhoused, who are unemployed, who are incarcerated, right? Who are pushed out of city contracts and opportunity here to have a festival where we're taking over downtown, where many Black people can't even afford to live, and to say, this is our space to celebrate, to be joyful, to be happy, to celebrate who we are, where we've come from, and to invite other people to celebrate us with them is so important. It's so radical. So it is open for everyone, not just Black people, but it is centering Black joy and the Black experience and Black Oakland. I also have to mention that I started my day off at the Oakland Museum. So I missed most of the parade because I was at the Oakland Museum because they were having a really special panel. A panel that was moderated conversation between my comrade and Dee Love, who does work with Black Cultural Zone and other organizations in terms of housing economic justice, as well as with Kat Brooks. Kat Brooks previously ran for mayor of Oakland. She leads on a lot of our criminal justice community organizing as well as policy pushes in our city. They both had a conversation on reparations, talking about what does Black reparations look like, what's going on with our state task force, what's going on with our federal legislation, what's going on in the city of Oakland. It was very dynamic to have that conversation before entering the Black joy space, to talk about, right, reparations. The root of the word is repair. To talk about not just the harms, but what does repair look like? Black joy is part of that repair, right? Healing, health, and wellness is part of that repair. Not simply handing me a check, but how do we allow for our children, our elders to be happy, to thrive, to feel comfortable, to feel safe enough to have a party in our streets, right? So I think the conversation really grounded me in being able to celebrate and also thinking about how much more celebration and joy, reclaiming space that we'll need to really repair the centuries and generations of harm, of trauma. And it was also, again, not a space just for Black people. We had folks in the room who identified as Japanese, who talked about Japanese internment. And we just had the anniversary of the executive order from our federal government that allowed us to literally take Japanese folks out of their houses, take away their property, and put them in internment camps in our state, right? And they received a check as a part of reparations. And it was very interesting because the audience member said, we got our check and it's still not enough. All right, and so I want you all to think about that because this is the conversation happening right now through our official task force. It's happening through Berkeley, through San Francisco. Hopefully it'll be happening in Oakland soon enough. But when it is happening and the conversation is, someone says, what do you need to be whole? Do we have an answer? And so I'm continuing to work to organize with Black people in all spaces around what does that look like. If people are ready to give us anything to repair, can we be united? Can we be clear on what that actually looks like, what that requires, and make sure that we get it to our people? So I did attend Black Joy. I encourage you all to attend every year. They even did a few other events like a Black bike ride around the city, happy hours, some dance events. So they do usually package a few other weekends of events. Please follow them on social media. They usually put their website out around Black History Month, but there's still ways to connect with the people who are leading on that, who again are making space for Black people to gather, for us to thrive, for us to celebrate, and simply be happy together. And I think we need more of that, more of that, just love and healing. And again, it's going to be political either way because we're Black, but it doesn't always have to feel like political work that we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, Allyssa, again, thank you for today's edition of Victory's Corner. Audience, as you know, you need to keep up with Allyssa, not just on the weeks when she's here. So I want to point you to her webpage, Victory, FOR, Oakland.wordpress.com. And also her Instagram handle is at Victory for Oakland.
Thank you all for having me. I'm very excited for Ray Bobbitt speaking next about our Coliseum. Again, East Oakland, so many workers there are ready to be reinvigorated, to have economic opportunity. Many of our business owners are excited about the ability to partner. I'm excited from everything I've heard about this project's proposals, and there's certainly a contrast to what other developments are being proposed to move the Coliseum to Howard Terminal. So I'm just excited what Ray Bobbitt, a Black man from Oakland, has envisioned for our city, for workers, for business here.
Allyssa?
Yes.
Allyssa?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was trying to, I had the Coliseum behind me. Did you see it?
Yeah, like the backdrop.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure our special guest, man of the city of Oakland, of honor, who is bringing jobs and opportunity, know that we support him here. In regards to you, Allyssa Victory, we support you. Continue to do the great work in this great city, in this county, and in this state. And I have been told by people across this country, your explanation and educating our audience on how well versed you are and ready to take the reins when elected. Thank you for your perspective. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you all. Have a great 2 weeks. See you soon for the next Victory Corner. And happy Women's History Month.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I was just going to honor. Yeah, I'm honoring Donnie Glover for this wonderful platform. And again, as always, we have Victory's Corner, and what a wonderful opportunity we get to highlight, again, Black leaders in our local and national communities. So thank you, Mr. Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.News. Audience, be tuned into our sister programming. So we have the Donnie Glover Show with Donnie Glover on Mondays. There's also Chapin Friends on Mondays, Party Marty Let's Talk on Tuesdays, Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays. And he knows all about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. On Saturdays, the Blackout Live from New York with Tajmir. And Sundays, 60 Minutes in Black USA with Michael Haney, as well as the Beverly Francis Show on Sundays. And we said it last week, but if you didn't get a chance to, go ahead and tune into Michael Haney's show episode from 2 weeks ago, as Doug and I had the privilege of serving on the panel. To join our BBRT advertising family or to be a possible guest on the show, you can reach us via our email address, bbrt2021@hotmail.com. In your email, please include your company name, address, website, and contact information for vetting consideration. Doug?
Well, I am so excited. I tried to put the Coliseum behind me because I want this man to know that we are rah, Ray Bobbitt and the African-American sports and entertainment crew. We want our audience across this city, this county, this state, this country, and in the world, Craig, in the world, know that we have been the home of Black Panthers, Huey Newton, Angela Davis, now Ray Bobbitt. To that end, let's welcome back Ray Bobbitt, founder of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, AASEG. It's been a while, but so happy to have this brother back. Dr. Ashley, please read this future Hall of Famer in Black history bio. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And Ray, again, I echo Doug. Welcome back. We're having a hard time holding back our smiles because we've been following you closely in the news. So Ray Bobbitt serves as the president and sole shareholder of the Nasirfa Corporation, a facility management and urban consulting company founded 22 years ago in Oakland, California. He has founded, co-founded, or served on boards of advisory, such as Webster Elementary Tutoring and Mentoring Program, East Oakland, San Francisco PD Southern Station Community Police Advisory Board, the CalPAC Northern CA Oakland, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Oakland Coliseum Economic Impact and Legal Action Committee, and that was formed to keep professional sports in Oakland. And again, that's just an abbreviation of the impact that you've had in the city that we both love. Welcome back, Ray.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I'm always so great. Like I can't hold back my smile when I'm with you guys, and just seriously, the level of support you guys have shown for everybody who's visionary. I do want to say that it's really not fair for me to have to follow Allyssa because she's just outstanding, and she's just a person who gets you excited about Oakland from the standpoint of future leadership. So it's just really exciting, and she's just incredibly articulate and brilliant. I've had some recent opportunity to work with her on the transition team for our new first African American elected district attorney for Alameda County, Pamela Price, and just great to work with. So, but thank you guys so much for having me, and I feel blessed and honored. You guys have been such a support, and as you do for African American businesses. So thank you so much.
Ray Bobbitt, may I call you Ray, sir?
Absolutely.
You know, we are right across the street from the Oakland Coliseum. Before we dive into this, that's where we're filming the show now. And let me be clear, audience, the Oakland Coliseum, and let me know if I'm wrong, Ray. I've been doing a little bit of homework on you, pal. The Oakland Coliseum is ranked 5th in the nation amongst coliseums in regards to access to transportation. You can jog down and catch a plane in less than 20 minutes. You have the freeway, 880, it's right off the freeway. You have BART, you have the train, and you have AC Transit. So I commend you for being in the right place at the right time with the right Coliseum. With that being said, what type of positive impact will development of the Oakland Coliseum have on East Oakland? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you again, and I always want to thank our team, all of our co-founders, and just the entire team that works so hard to make up the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. So, just always want to thank everybody. But we believe that, and don't quote me on my statistics, but in District 6 and 7, I think that there's about 8,000 people that commute outside of the district to go to work. And I believe that there's only 2,000 full-time positions in the districts, as if you can imagine that. And so that means that if the Coliseum site can generate, if you use development metrics of 16 million square feet of development footprint, you can take from that the prospect of creating 20 to 30,000 jobs. Now, I think it's safe to say that in most tables and in most corners, and people believe that one of the most effective crime prevention tools on earth is a job, is employment. And so this project could potentially create a job for almost all of the adults that live in these most impacted districts in the city. And so when we're talking about, doing something transformative and generational, we're talking about revitalizing East Oakland versus gentrifying it and displacing it. And so that's going to be difficult to do. And we're going to have to fight some fights. We're going to have to make sure that that the people that we put into the training pipeline from our community through our reentry space, just all the people in our community who've been so affected and fractured by so much that has gone on in our community, can be prepared when these jobs do, start to come to fruition. And if we can do that, we seriously have an opportunity to change things in a way that is just profound. And it's so much different than, the different strategies. There's so many out there, but employment and training employment and education opportunities for people in areas that are highly impacted. Because if you ask 95% of the people who are out in our community doing things that are counterproductive to our community, I would say 95% of them would say that if they had an opportunity to have a job to take care of their families, they would take it all day.
Well, as you see, I am trying to make sure our audience get a view of the Coliseum as it is now, once again, ranked 5th in the nation. So, Dr. Ashley, please.
Ray, as all of us being natives of Oakland, California, it is hard to find a Black man or woman that as children didn't either grow up playing Babe Ruth or played in the OAL or even in Catholic schools. So we have definitely developed and have some of the greatest professional athletes come from Oakland as well. But again, this is a national show, and some people may not be really familiar with the relationships of sports to Oakland. Can you share with our audience how sports can be used as an economic vehicle to revitalize the community?
Absolutely. And I always just say that first and foremost, Oakland is known for sports throughout the world because of our iconic sports franchises that were, obviously the Oakland Raiders being born here and being one of the most iconic sports franchises. The Golden State Warriors with all the success that they had in Oakland. And of course, the A's with all the success that they've had are all very iconic sports franchises. But what gets lost sometimes is the fact that all these incredible athletes come from Oakland. And you could argue that Oakland is a place where the top of all the major sports come from. You could argue certainly that Bill Russell was the greatest basketball player of all time. I think 90% of the people would agree with that, except Michael Jordan fans, but we say Bill Russell. And McClymonds High School. You could argue that Ricky Henderson was the best baseball player that ever played the game. Of course, from Oakland Tech. And you could also, say that Joe Morgan, from Castlemont, was also, one of the best to ever play. Marshawn Lynch in football. I mean, it just goes on and on. And if you just had the list of Hall of Famers, from Gary Payton to Jason Kidd to just all these incredible Hall of Famers, recent Hall of Famers with, future Hall of Famers, Dame Lillard. I mean, the list of the people who come out of Oakland to go on and be great athletes is amazing. But one of the reasons why we are so successful in that space is because for so long, we all had parks and recreation. And anybody who grows up in Oakland knows that you can go to your local park, whether it be a Royal Park or Brookfield Park or, Bushrod or wherever you're at. And you know that if you go to that park, you're going to get two things. You're going to get a lot of sports for free, and you're going to get free lunch. You're going to get fed, you're going to get a nutritious lunch, and you're going to be able to go and play sports until you got to go home until the lights come on. And so and the way that the city of Oakland is designed is that most recreation centers serve about 3 elementary schools. So if you see at a Royal Park, you have Webster Elementary right next to it, Markham right next to it, and Parker right next to it. And those are all the 3 schools that I just point out because that was my area, and those are the schools. That was the rec center I went to, and I went to Webster. So we just walked right through the gate, and it was sort of like a built-in after-school program. So you really could go right from school over to the rec center, and there was activities, there was sports, there was all these different things that you could do, and there was a commitment there. So that's why part of when you look at Oakland and you look at some of the fractures, if you could see it right in funding of park and recreation, funding of Head Start, funding of things that really live in recreation centers, even beyond the education piece. But now it's gone so far that you're closing schools like Parker, that is a feeder into a Royal Park Recreation Center. So you have the kids there are having to leave, so they're not even able to walk and be in a safe space. So we got to get that back, and we got to do that. But sports is something that we've always been able to depend on in Oakland for crime prevention, for mentoring. Or the coaches and the community have always played a big role. And then, of course, entertainment. If you don't even want to get into that, because we have some of the best entertainers in the world that have ever come in the world that have come from Oakland. I mean, the list is so long. I mean, we just lost the Pointer Sisters from Oakland. God bless them. But I mean, literally, I could go on and on and on about the entertainment. So sports and entertainment is a vehicle for us, has always been. But when it comes to the professional space, as you are aware, situations like the NFL or the NBA, where you have the NFL, where you have 75% African Americans in a league that has 0 owners. You have 75% players in a league that has almost no African American executives. You have 75% African American players in a league that has an embarrassing amount of head coaches, and they regularly get skipped over. So sports is something that we can evolve into and really take ownership in and use as a vehicle for ourselves.
Did you hear about what's going on with that lawsuit with the black coach in
Dolphins from Miami?
Yeah, Dolphins. Yeah,
One
he
was
just took
thrown
another
out.
coordinator. He just took a coordinator position.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. So I mean,
I just wanted to say would have been unemployed if the sole black head coach would not have hired him. So let's say he was fired, left the Dolphins, and became an assistant coach with the Steelers,
right,
because that head coach, a black man, hired him and did not leave him out to dry. I just want to highlight that. So even with the low representation, we're still collective where we can be.
That's right. And so that's why we have to be able to be conscious and deliberate as we move into ownership. Because if we move into ownership, then there's going to be an opportunity for us to really be able to fill those other executive roles. It was interesting today. I was at a meeting at the DA's office, and there were so many people in the leadership positions were African American, in a traditionally non-African American office. And so you start seeing when we can penetrate certain areas, we can have representation that's fair, and we can really get an opportunity to participate. So in sports, we certainly should be in ownership. We should have certainly a opportunity to invest in education that creates executives within the sports space. We should be loaded in that space, and that's really a area both in entertainment and sports that we could dominate as a community.
Well, that seems to be a positive thing from Pamela Price. I would have expected nothing to less. Let me be clear. I am being surprised by other elected officials, which we will be addressing in a future date. Moving forward, what is your history in regards to the Oakland Coliseum and growing up in Oakland? Thank you, sir.
Well, as you know, one of the things that I did is I got involved with the Coliseum this time, trying to keep sports in Oakland, and being an advocate of keeping the Raiders and the Warriors and the Raiders in Oakland. But in the back of my mind, I always felt like, well, if the Raiders leave, that's going to be our opportunity to have our own team. And so just because I was always kind of thinking from that perspective, and I think that mindset came from just growing up at the Coliseum, right next to the Coliseum. My grandmother was at 77th and Rudsdale. So we could literally hear all the announcements of the loudspeakers from the Coliseum. We could watch the fireworks, the blimp. We got on our roof and watched. And so that was just a natural place for us. But we also, my sister and brother both worked concessions at the Coliseum. And I, as the entrepreneur of the family, sold things around the Coliseum. So I was the kid out there trying to sell you an umbrella on a rainy day or a cold bottle of water on a hot day. And, I was trying to rent you my friends, maybe that lived like on 69th or 70th, their driveway for the year. You could park there and we would make sure your car was safe. And so, I'm saying all that to say is I always had an economic relationship with the site, and the people that live in that direct community. When I met a lot of the fans, they were like, "We've never seen you at games. We've never seen you tailgating." And I was like, "Well, growing up, I never really could afford to go to a Raider game, but I watched it on TV, but I would listen to it from my roof, and I was always just working. The game was not really an opportunity for me to watch and root on the team, although I love the teams. This was like a chance for me to make some money, and for a chance for me for all of our community to benefit. So this was a natural evolution for me growing up in that direct neighborhood and, on 80th between Plymouth and Holly, and then on 77th and 78th in Rosedale with my grandparents. So it was just natural, and so we all went there. We all made money there. We all worked there. And so this now full circle with me as an adult, having this incredible opportunity, being selected by the city council unanimously to purchase and develop that site for the city's interest is a pretty amazing thing. And it really gives us an opportunity to really be unapologetically supportive of the African-American business structure. And we're going to do that, from Black contractors to just anything that we can do to support ourselves, because people often say quietly now, why don't Black people do this, or why don't they do, well, we are doing it, and oftentimes you don't talk about or hear about the fact that, while we are impacted in our communities, we also are the fastest growing middle class in America. So we're moving in a direction of positivity. And I know that the negativity is what people like to show, but there's a lot of things going on. And this project is something that we can all be very grateful for and proud of, just from a visionary perspective. And we're going to move it into fruition. And one of the reasons why it's moving into fruition is to have people like you that support it and have supported it from the beginning. And Doug has had to put his dukes up a couple of times in some meetings where I was getting attacked, and because there's some people out there that are going to attack what we're trying to do, and that's natural. But when you have people like Doug and other people who are from this community, they're going to be able to keep you protected. And so, thank you. And
well, I'm an Avenue boy too. I'm from 90th Avenue, so we Avenue boy. One thing we know how to throw them things.
Oh yeah.
Is it on you or me, Doctor?
It's on me. Ray, one of the things that really impressed me the first time you came to the show is hearing your process, meeting with community stakeholders to hear their input and what their needs are. So many times when people have plans, they take an elitist standpoint and don't consider the impact of the community. And so again, your love for Oakland shines. Can you share with our audience, and maybe a little bit newer to your plan, how you think the project can impact change in regards to some of the challenges now kind of around with the Coliseum and the surrounding areas?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it was really important for us, and we did meet with 50 community organizations literally before we even submitted a proposal to the city. And we were in competition with 4 other groups to get the site. And I think the difference is that we did really go to the community and get their input and get their support. And so once we got the community support, that really transferred into political currency. It really was something that it was almost impossible to say no, because the people were speaking, and I think we're moving into a era now where the people are speaking more, and the people's voice, if you don't listen to it, you can end up suffering the consequences for not listening to the people. And so the people are starting to kind of, get a different position, and people are coming together more. Just like, Alyssa was just talking about the Joy Parade. Like, people are really ready to come together in a positive way. People are kind of like sick and tired of being sick and tired of dealing with, people, trying to hurt each other and that type of thing. That's just becoming outdated. So when you look at the circumstances in that direct area, it's really because it's so underserved. It's so highly impacted. And so if people don't have anything and they don't have anything to really look forward to or have any hope, then it's really going to be difficult for them to give you 100% of everything that they might have in the way of inspiration. So I think that this project and us going to the community and hearing from them and hearing what they think and how they feel and what they need was powerful. Like, for example, we have the kids from Castlemont High School coming next Wednesday to the Coliseum, and they've been working since last year on a design project where they want to design what they would like to see, the Coliseum look like. And I go for student interviews on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we do a big field trip where they come and get a tour of the entire facility, and then they do a showcase with their parents and their families, showing what their vision is of the Coliseum and how they think it could impact them. So if you're not going that deep into the trenches of the community and you're not really trying to reach people from that perspective, then it's going to be hard for you to just get embraced.
Let me
Doug, can I jump in? Can I just say one thing, just as an educator? I'm so sorry. Ray, I love that idea because you mentioned it a couple times when you've been on the show previously. Project-based learning as educators, we've been talking about how to engage our youth, and you talked about that class at Castlemont. So actually following through on that plan, but then being able to see the importance of their visions and carrying that out, and then standing in front of family and getting that, reception. I'm sure they're going to be proud, but that mentorship, again, as an educator, that's just a wonderful way to show the importance of workforce in that pipeline.
And also just the value that we have for our young people. And that's our number one resource, is that our young people. So if we're not tapping into them and we're not giving them a chance to have a voice too, and to really express what they need, then how are we really going to bring resolution to some of the things that we have as the highest level of challenges? And so as I'm glad as an educator, you can see it and feel it. But I can also say that as an entrepreneur of somebody who's a vision, who has used their vision to help them move through this life, it's beautiful to watch them see how they feel and to see it expressed, and then to see their families come and admire what they've done. And then ultimately, once we start this project, if some of those things can come into fruition that they actually came up with, and they can participate in this process. So it's a pretty incredible approach. And so we feel like we have done a really good job at that. And that's why we're enjoying the success of support that we have.
Before I ask my next question, when you initially started working on the Coliseum, was there anyone else even thinking about the Coliseum?
No, actually, the Coliseum went out for a surplus where the city has to declare that they're willing to sell it. So that's the Surplus Lands Act. And typically, once they do the notice, then it has to go to municipalities first and also affordable housing organizations. And at that time, only one organization came forward to try to make a deal with the city, and that was a affordable housing group that ended up not being able to fulfill the a contract. And so literally nobody was thinking about the Coliseum. I think that nobody was even interested in it and didn't have an interest in it at all. The A's had passed on buying the city side, and so they had pursued the county side. But once they went into contract and once we knew that the Surplus Lands Act had expired, that's when we made our move, because everything that some people might not like about the Coliseum and the surrounding area we love about the Coliseum and surrounding area. You know what I mean? So we were like, oh man, this is such an incredible opportunity. But until you start kind of painting the beautiful opportunity that it can be, and you paint, you know, just close your eyes and envision the Coliseum and 20 different development footprints, you know, pads with hotels, you know, and you know, cultural centers, and you know, entertainment, and you know, education, and you know, affordable housing, market rate housing, you know, sports complexes. I mean, life sciences, just all these different things. Much like when you go to San Francisco and you look at Mission Bay on the, you know, foot of Third. I mean, it's very similar, and so it's a whole new community now. It has UCSF medical, it has housing, it has sports, it has kind of everything that we're talking about. And the Coliseum, if you think about it, it's 112 acres. If you add the adjacent parcels, it's 155 acres. Whereas Howard Terminal is only 55 acres, period. So we're talking about a concept and a development that is 3 times bigger and will be the largest development in the city's history. And so this, when you start looking at it and closing your eyes and envision it like the kids from Castle Mountain, like us, now you see why everybody wants a piece of it. Now all of a sudden everybody wants to bid for it. Everybody wants to see us trip up. We have a lot more detractors than we had before, you know, so that happens.
Well, we look forward to having a media spot in there, both in the WNBA, because my colleague and friend and sister, she loves basketball, women's basketball, and all kinds of basketball.
Well, I, you know, work with athletes, so that's where I love it personally, but also professionally. Yeah, you can't.
We're putting our bid in early, Ray. Also, what is it? My turn or your turn? I mean, this is
it's your turn. I know.
This is such a great conversation. What is the forecast and prospects of an NFL Black-owned football team here in Oakland, California? Thank you, sir.
Well, let me just say that we are excited about that prospect. We feel like it can happen, and it should happen. We feel like the two questions that we got asked by the league was, you know, where are you going to play, and where's the money going to come from? And the where are you going to play question was more difficult than where's the money going to come from question. Because as you can see with professional sports teams, trying to build a stadium and trying to find the right place to build a stadium is very, very difficult to do, because that can only occur in certain areas. And I think one of the things that, you know, that Doug said earlier that's really important is that from a sports perspective and an entertainment perspective, the Coliseum is number one with respect to transportation infrastructure, with 4 different major transportation entities coming and intersecting in one point. That's almost unheard of, to have a airport connector, a BART railway, Amtrak, and you know, AC Transit and the 880 freeway all intersect at one point. It's unbelievable. It is probably the reason why that the arena is doing so much better than all the other arenas in the region, because it's just easy to get to, and people love watching events there, and people like being able to, they love the accessibility. So that's something that the league likes. And so the first question that they had to us got answered. So now we got the ability to have control of the site. So now the question now is, are they going to be open to making sure that there's a true opportunity for an African American group to have a team? And as you know, through other discussions that we had presented them with 3 options. A was just the traditional option that they have of where one person has to own 30% of the team. And as we all know, that if the franchise fee for an expansion team is the value of the lowest team. And so if, as you know, Denver Broncos just sold for $5 billion. So I think that they say that the Buffalo Bills is worth $2 billion. The last time we had this conversation, I'm not sure how much it is now. But if that were the case, you're talking about $600 million from one person in cash. And so that means that, you have to have a billionaire who's even willing to put that much liquidity up for this type of thing. So what it does is it's just systemic in itself. It's just like almost eliminates, if you have 6 billionaires that are African American on the planet or in America, and only 2 may or may not want to have a team, but if the economics were, properly distributed, we'd have 85 billionaires. But we know that wealth is not distributed fairly. So, but we should have 85 billionaires. So if that can't happen, our second option, we're pursuing that, but the second option was a group economics option, saying that, well, maybe if we don't have a principal that can pay 600 million, maybe there's one that can pay 100 million, and we can bring a bunch of more African Americans together that can make a contribution, and you guys can change the rules and make an exception for us, and maybe expand the number of limited owners, because there could be up to 21 now. And so that's the second option. And then the last option we said was, there's already precedent in the NFL as the only sport out of the 4 major sports of football, basketball, baseball, and hockey, that there's one nonprofit, and that's the Green Bay Packers. And so we feel like Oakland should have that exception as a 47-year host city of the NFL. We know how to do it. We have an incredible fan base that's proven. There should be no reason why we shouldn't be looked at from the standpoint, if you really want African American ownership, and the African American community had an opportunity to buy into a team that was a nonprofit and to support it. And everybody could support it, but it could be, nonprofit. It could be, in hybrid, where it could be African American led. I mean, we just basically laid those options out so there'd be no way to say no. So at the end of the day, we're going to now that we have the site, we're making a serious run at the process. And, we feel confident in that, as long as we can keep moving forward and taking these steps forward, that we will be successful. We just can't stop. And that's what we don't plan on doing. And even how long it takes, or how difficult it can be at times, when you have a vision, you just have to live it into reality. And so we feel really good about it, and we feel like no other place than Oakland would make sense. There's so many reasons why, and the league likes Oakland. The league actually has told us that Oakland is a great site for NFL football. It's been successful. It's proven. They don't need to wonder if it's going to work or not. The fan base is here. So it's a major opportunity for us that we have accomplished one of the primary pieces. And now once the other piece gets completed, I think we're going to be in good shape.
Ray, right now, I just want to highlight a couple comments from the community. It's going to lead into my next question. So Cheryl, Mr. Enzo, thank you so much. We have Brother Pride for us. We hear AASEG is what we've been needing. Ray Bobbitt, the partners and community will do this. Sister Cheryl said she was raised on 75th near Ray's grandparents, and it's still in District 7. We will be successful. Mr. Enzo says, what an amazing way to introduce youth to so many interesting potential careers. Teens need more great opportunities like this. So it's clear to our viewers and to us that this is a win-win. So Ray, what do you need from community members to move forward and to continue to support your efforts?
And that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. We're going to need everybody in the community to really come together to make this happen, because when you think about it just on its face, like, why would this not just be an automatic? I mean, just think about that for a minute. Like, just think about like everything, the opportunity we have for a public-private partnership that the city has already, done its part. The NFL has talked about wanting to participate in economic equality for African Americans. I mean, like, just think about, like, if we could just pause for a minute and think about how this is not just being just like everybody is just like all over it. And if you just think about that for a minute, it just becomes very clear that the only way that we're going to get it done is we have to push it, because just systemically, it's not what people want to see. And so because if it was, it would already be that way. It doesn't make any sense for us to have that high percentage of African Americans playing in the league and have no owners, very few executives, and an embarrassing amount of coaches. I mean, it just, when you really think about it. And so I think that what's going to happen is we're going to have to come together as a community and really, really come together on some major levels. But I can say this, the African American community has been so supportive and so excited about this that if once we package it in a vehicle, we can all mobilize together. We had a meeting with MLK III. Martin Luther King III came and visited us last week and had breakfast with us and talked about this. We have so many people around the nation who are gravitating towards this and saying this is something that we should all get behind as a community. This is just, when you think about it, what we're going to really need is, once the vehicle is built, we're going to just need everybody from the community to come on board, and we're going to push, and we're going to call, and we're going to have to be advocates, because as much as Oakland is known for sports, iconic sports teams, athletes, entertainers, educators, what it's really known for around the world is social activism. So it's really known for that. And so if we are going to have to almost be like entrepreneur activists, that are community first developers, and we're going to have to bring into fruition build a vehicle for our community to get behind us in a way that, they haven't seen before. So that's going to be coming, and people like you and what you guys do here, once we get going and we put our proposal in to the league, it's just going to need to be all over the country and all over the world that this has to happen, because there's really no reason for it not to. I mean, if you just really think about it.
Well, before I get into my next question, I love what you said in regards to economic inequality and equity and inclusion. And audience, I'm not racist or anything, but I'm just going to say white people have been earning money off of our backs for 400 years, and then ask, why do we have a problem? So when you are getting money from a group of people, having them work and not paying them for 400 years, you got a little head start. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I went back to on, the distribution of wealth in our country is something that we all realize is pretty seriously flawed. And I think that, if there was an opportunity to really make good on some of the commitments that were made in 2020 by people, when it was popular to talk about African American economic equality, if that's real, we should find out soon, because there were a lot of people saying they were going to put money towards it, that they would have a change of heart, and so we're an action item, and so we took that seriously, and our process started as a result of that. And I mean, it was always a vision, but it really got kickstarted during that time. And so, we have to, the one good thing that we're experiencing that's really important is self-help and self-creation of economic opportunity within our own community. And so the truth is that this type of project can kickstart like a transformation and a transfer of generational wealth to all the people in the community. Like, the community can invest in this and have a part in it for their own families. And so that's where we need to be, because at this point, the reason why we're challenging the system this way is we're saying we don't need a handout from anybody. We just want an opportunity that's fair. And we just want to be in a position to help ourselves and to create jobs for our own community. And we can resolve our own problems if we are really allowed a real opportunity for that to occur systemically. Like, seriously.
Well, you have an all-star lineup: Robert
Yeah.
Bobb,
Mhm.
Alan Dones,
Mhm.
and quite a few key players out there who are beating the drums for you. So let me be clear: Oakland, Alameda County, California, and to our national audience, we need to get behind AASEG, African American Sports and Entertainment Group, to show first that we can. Yes, we can. And second, with the programs that you have outlined here, including high school kids on the development of this project is amazing. It's simply amazing. To that end, if there is anything further you would like to share before we end this segment, please, please feel free to do so before we wrap it up. I want national, state, county, and Oakland community to get behind this force that is going to be one to be reckoned with. Thank you, sir.
I would just say that community is a real thing. When I was talking earlier about being able to go from Webster to Royal Park Recreation Center and play sports and have friends in your neighborhood. And Oakland wasn't when I was, when we were kids, it was a really beautiful place to be and a nice place. Um, I think that everybody, especially in the communities we grew up in, it was working class, and we can get back there, and we don't have to displace everybody to get back there. And so community is a real thing. It's something, and we're doing it. And this is something that we can all do. And there's so many stories of people doing positive. It's just we get overwhelmed in the media by the negative, and so. But they really don't talk about the positive, because if we had something called just good news, you could turn it to a channel and they would just talk about good things all the time. I bet you everybody would be watching that, and I think we're moving to that point where people are just not interested in, seeing the train wreck. They don't want to be in no negative energy no more, and so, um, and I just stand with the fact that, I believe in God, and I have no apologies about that. And I believe that God is important for us to stay focused, and is certainly our moral compass. And so as long as we keep that in mind, I think it'll it'll turn out good for us.
Dr. Ashley.
Ray, I was gonna, as I close and let our audience know about how to, stay abreast of new emerging events as it happens. I wanted to comment actually on your faith and your mindset. And there were two quotes that came to me. I always sometimes go back to Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. But the one that really stands out to me is, my plan B is just another way to make my plan A work. And
Amen.
it's very clear that you have your eye on the prize. I get motivated. I have my stress ball, but it's in the shape of football. I have my stress ball. I'm ready to run through a wall for you. Just again, you see the comments, as Doug mentioned, locally, nationally, so many people rooting for you and your team that is comprised of powerhouse leaders in their respective fields. So we're just so grateful that you came to update us. We're going to get our audience, again, we want you to follow at AASEG. Let me get the handle correct, at AASEG Oakland, to stay abreast of what's going on. But Ray, we're with you here at the Black Business Roundtable, and we're so excited for you.
Thank you. And it's not just saying that. I'm telling the audiences, I was in some forums while we were going through this process, and the roundtable came to my defense, like serious. I'm not even joking around, where Doug literally was in there were I can there's some multiple scenarios where Doug literally came and just went hard to paint for us. So because it's ironic when you're trying to do something this good, you just wonder why somebody would be against it. but people are against it. Like people really, there's certain people that just don't want to see it happen, and they just, for whatever reason, So, but we've had this forum in our corner and live, like I'm talking about a real live situations where it was time to come and get our back and had our back without question. So thank you again for everything. I appreciate you both so much. And thank you for having us and having me. And I want to appreciate our whole team. There's a lot of us. And just want to appreciate everybody.
Audience, you heard it here on the Black Business Roundtable from Ray Bobbitt, president of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. We will continue to support you, defend you, and fight for you. Have a great day, my brother. Thank you for being on today.
All right. God bless.
Same to you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good fight. Audience, let's be clear here. The Black Business Roundtable is going into our second year coming up on May. We have evolved with your support, with your viewership, and we appreciate you. But I humbly ask that you follow the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. We appreciate we appreciate Mr. Enzo. And Mr. Enzo from Lodi, California, where his dog was killed by the police and nothing has been done. We will not be supporting the businesses in Lodi until they get their act together. And last but not least, my brother, Kalima Pryforce, the Honorable Kalima Pryforce, Emeryville's newly elected council member. We thank you for coming on today. And Donnie Glover, we see you, brother. We see you. Dr. Ashley, can you bring us on into closing so we can get you out of here to your next client? Because once again, if you have a splinter in your brain, if you are having signs of suicide, depression, anxiety, just like you would seek a medical doctor for a broken leg, a dentist for a cavity, seek out a doctor of psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take us away.
I will, but Doug, before I do, I just want to also acknowledge the privilege of witnessing you receive your flowers for the advocacy that you do behind the scenes from the goodness of your heart. And so I just really appreciate being your teammate, but you being acknowledged, support and community, not just in word, but in deed too. Again, audience, we have some wonderful people, friends of the shows, movers in the community that you need to keep up with. So I'm going to highlight some, again, accounts for you. So as always, we're starting with first at AASEG Oakland, at Barack Denzel, at Urban Cowgirl Ranch _ There's at Nile Swim Club. Don't forget our friends in Pennsylvania. At Kamal R. Hubbard, at Labjay Wines, at Shang FOR Oakland. See what our mayor's doing. At Arc Republic, at Justice for Pushan Brown. Still thinking about a sister's interview from last week. And at 100K Trees. Mr. Donnie Glover, your platform is invaluable. Thank you for BlackUSA.News. We appreciate your continued support and mentorship in this space. Audience, again, we have some shows for you to check out on the network. There's Chapin Friends on Monday, Titillating Tuesdays with Stacey Dennis on Tuesdays, Party Marty Let's Talk as well on Tuesdays, Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays. And on Saturdays, there's the Blackout Live from New York. And Sundays, 60 Minutes and Black USA with Michael Haney. I'm going to continue on with the shows. And then there's several shows hosted by Mr. Donnie Glover himself. So there's BlackUSA.News Morning Show, The Donnie Glover Show, People Over Politics, there's Political Cipher, Data Mall Sis, Community Connections, Resources and Gardening, The Robert Report, Shared Space, Frontline News, Troy Rawlings Show, and the Beverly Smith Show. And as always, stay tuned as programming is added regularly. And again, if you want to be in the know and reach our audience, then join our BBRT advertising family, or to be a possible guest on the show, email us at bbrt2021@hotmail.com. In your email, please include details about your company, its website, and contact information for vetting consideration. We are again entering, we are here in March. I can't believe we're here, but we're keeping tabs on, there are several cases that are near and dear to our heart. And so first, there's the hashtag Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, NC 2022. Okay. If you would like to send Carlton messages of, encouragement or support, please email us and we will be happy to forward those messages on to him. As well, the next trial date for Driving While Black, Michael Thrash, Taylor County TX, is now March 27th, 2023. So we want to keep using that hashtag, Driving While Black, Michael Thrash, Taylor County TX. The original show, our original episode that discussed this horrific story is on October 14th, 2021. So if you're not familiar, please go back and watch that episode. Doug?
I want to say Oakland, Alameda County, State of California, and America, thank you for joining us today. Thursday, we will return Thursday, March 9th, 2023, with guest Barack Obama Shaw, hashtag Barack Obama 4, and that's the numeral 4, Governor, GOV, California, CA. Trent Willis, immediate past president of the ILWU Local 10 and owner of this beautiful, one of her collections is Ty here, beautiful collection of men's clothing, and she's going to talk about her women's clothing store also. Black woman-owned apparel, and she owns her store is called Nate's for Men, or excuse me, Nate for Men, and if I'm saying it incorrectly, I'm sure she'll check me next weekend. So we look forward to seeing you every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Black USA News Network on YouTube and Facebook. Audience, thank you again for tuning in. And remember, together we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blackshear and Dr. Ashley Coleman of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless and good night. Thank you. We'll see you next week.